Okay, welcome back to our next teaching on the spirit of man. And let's talk some more about this. We just had a very good question in between videos, and I want to bring it out. And the question is, well, what does God have? If you see the Shekinah glory, what are we seeing? Well, we're seeing all three aspects of the Spirit of God. We're seeing, obviously, the Spirit of life, because life itself is God. Life comes from God. Okay? When we have taken on our full inheritance, we will glow with the presence of life itself. Remember, I've told you that many times. Because our bodies will take on the fullness of nefesh, the fullness of kai, or life itself. Every one of our cells will be fully alive, so that no longer will we suffer from the degradation of the flesh, but we will be fully alive. Okay, what else is present? Well, nefesh, a soul self. God has a soul. In his own testament, he says, my soul lives. Yeah, God has a personality. He is who he is. He does have a personality. And then what's the other aspect? The third aspect, it's ruka, which means a mind and spirit. Scripture tells us God is spirit. He uses many different phrases to speak of his mind. God is intelligence itself. He has the mind that the finest minds are just a shadow of. So yes, it's seeing the Shekinah glory, we see all of these aspects of God. And that's why when we describe these aspects, and there are hundreds of examples, I'm only giving you a few. God is always mentioned in them. God is each part of these. Okay, let's move on to the next word and look at some examples. And this time we're going to look again at ruka, Strong's number 7307. It means wind, breath, a mind, a spirit. Again, its Greek word equivalent is 4151, which we will look at later and look at examples of. Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God. Yes, Scripture says that God is Spirit. He made us after his image and likeness. We are also spirit. Genesis chapter 3, verse 8. Very interesting. It talks about the cool of the day. It's a Hebrew term. It literally means when the wind blows. The blowing of the wind is a type of the Spirit of God. And sometimes, they use that term for spirit to say the wind is blowing. In other words, something spiritual is about to happen. Well, look at Genesis chapter 3, verse 8. It's talking about those who walk with God in the cool of the day. They walk when God's Spirit is moving. Isn't that amazing? So Enoch walked with God. And before the flood, there was only one place that he could walk with God. Scripture says that those who walked with God walked with him in the garden. People say, Enoch was translated so he never saw death, so Enoch is still out walking around on the earth today. That's not true. The sin of Cain was being repeated constantly, which was murder of the innocent. And Enoch was such a righteous man, he walked with God. He was allowed to walk with God in the garden, the only place God walked with man on earth. Enoch was taken into the garden to live out the rest of his life there so he wouldn't have to see death anymore outside or the murders of the innocent. The sons and daughters of Cain were capturing innocent people and sacrificing them on an altar to Lucifer. He didn't want to see that anymore. He didn't want to hear about it anymore. And so God finally one day just said, you come with me because you walk with me in the cool of the day. Well, what does that mean? Well, the blowing of the wind of God, the moving of his Spirit. Beautiful picture, the cool of the day. When the sun's getting low, then the cool wind starts blowing and cools everything down. And that's when the Spirit of God is moving. You know, a gentle wind. Genesis chapter 6, verse 17, the breath of life. I will destroy every creature that hath the breath of life. The breath of life. The ruka. See, plants don't have a mind. These are creatures that has a mind. Does a dog have a mind? Yeah. Does a cat? Well, yes. That was for Pat and Tony's sake. Yes, of course a cat has a mind. Even my fish have a mind. They do. They think a little bit outside of their instincts. Just a little bit. That's why all the fish are different. You'll find some fish that you can actually tame, other fish you can't. That also shows the presence of a soul. Okay? But their mind, they think about it. When the fish see me, their minds think about food, their soul responds with hunger, and they come up to the surface and start splashing to get my attention so that I'll feed them. And they just literally see me walk by. They don't do it with everybody, but their mind differentiates different people. Isn't that amazing? So even little fish have a mind and a soul. But the breath of life is only in creatures that have a mind and a soul. Plants don't. Plants don't. Just those that have the breath of life. Genesis chapter 8, verse 1 talks about the wind blowing across the earth. So again, a lot of these terms are interchangeable, and they're used loosely. But if you look very closely at them and are careful with what you're reading, you get deeper spiritual truths. For example, like I just gave you, Enoch walking with God in the cool of the day. Well, what's really going on is lost with the King James translation. It's really Enoch walked with God when God's Spirit is moving. That's what it's meaning. God's Spirit is blowing, moving. And that's why God took him into Eden with him. So it's a deeper spiritual meaning. Now, I have some things I want to show to you. Let's go to the book of, let me see here, Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. Verse 21. It says, who knows that the breath of man ascends upward and the breath of the beast descends downward to the earth? So people that say, hey, John or Angela, could you excite the screen again because we've lost the video for our brethren. So those who have asked the question, do animals go to heaven? No. Look at what Scripture says. And let me go to NASB here. Yeah. Who knows that the breath of man ascends upward? The word breath is, again, 7307 Nepha. So it is the mind and spirit. Your mind and spirit are the same thing. So the mind and spirit of man, when you die, goes up. Now remember, once you're conceived, your soul cannot be separated from your mind. Your soul, when you're living and you're walking in your flesh, will fight with your mind. Paul talks about it. The soul fights for the things of the flesh, and the spirit or the mind for the things of God. So the two conflict with each other, but the two are part of who you are. Because your soul is your personality. It's your person. So the mind goes to God, it goes up, but the mind of a beast goes down to the earth. So what does this mean? Well, why does man go up? Man goes up because he has to be judged so that his position in the life after this life is known. In other words, everybody will travel to the valley of the shadow of death. And saved or not saved, everybody has the same testimony of coming up to a beautiful burning ball of light. And some people go through it and are burned and then descend into a place of punishment. Some people come into it, go through it, and are burned, and the last of the dross is taken off, and the next thing they know, they're in the arms of Jesus in an instant of time. And the last of their dross is gone, burned away. But we all go to the same valley. My dad had a vision of it when he was dying and told my mom. He flew without an airplane. As an old Air Force man, he was very excited. But yeah, we all go up. For what? To determine where we're going to go, either into punishment or straight into heaven. We don't stay in the ground. We're not in the grave. And we don't walk the earth. We don't stay behind to spook people. There is no such thing as ghosts. There is such thing of demon spirits mimicking humans. I saw a video of a party that these kids were having. I don't know what the occasion was, a birthday or something. And they're in a big yard, and there's a forest right on the edge of their yard. And these kids about this tall, they were boys and girls, they were playing. They had balloons, and there was a kiddie pool splashing, throwing water at each other. You know, just a bunch of kids. One of them had a camera and was videotaping his friends, and they were giggling and laughing like a bunch of kids. It was fun to watch them. And then on the edge of the forest, an orb appears. And the kid starts going, huh? And the other kids are running in front. They don't see it. This kid, though, he's going, huh? And then the orb transforms, and it's an alien. Looks just like an alien. Big head, big eyes, standing there, gray, naked alien. Next thing you know, it transforms again, and it's a boy. Looks exactly, and dressed like a boy, same age as the kids that were playing. Standing sideways now, not facing the kid, but standing sideways. And then the boy starts walking off along the edge of the forest, and the kid screams in. So what did the demon do? It appeared, had to appear, I suppose, in its earthly form, which is as an alien. Don't be fooled, these aliens are not aliens, they're demon spirits. But then it wanted to masquerade itself further, so it suddenly transformed itself into a human, a dressed little boy. And now it probably was wanting to infiltrate those boys and to do harm. But since this kid caught it, it walked off. When people see ghosts, I guarantee you that's a demon spirit. It is not a human ghost. But we have this picture of this child sitting on a gravestone. Really? Do you think God is going to let a little child sit there in a cold graveyard on a gravestone without a mother or anybody around, all by itself for eternity? Are you crazy? Whose God is your God? That's not a child. That is a demon spirit mimicking a child. Why? So you'll think it's a child. Why? So that people will go to that gravestone and start talking to the child. Why? Because it'll cause you to sin, because Scripture says it is a sin to talk to the dead. And so that demon wants to promote talking to the dead. It's called necromancy. And it's an open door to witchcraft. So don't do it. Okay, in closing for this session, Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 7. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God, who gave it. The word spirit there is 7307. It means the mind and your spirit. Picture, if you will, a ball of light. That's your body. That's your spiritual body, because you don't have a perfected body yet. That's a disembodied spirit. That's where your mind is kept, and your soul is in that ball. So it's interesting. It says the dust will return to dust as it was. So the flesh goes back to dust. The spirit, your nefesh, will go back to God who gave it first. But when he gave it, there wasn't a soul attached until it became attached to you. Now your soul is part of it. So when it goes back to God, for what? Distribution to wherever it's supposed to go. To either punishments or to glory. Because what comes back to God is your soul and your spirit. Whatever you have decided to do, good or evil, accompanies you. Because it's locked into your mind. So you just download the mind. You see if you're a good person or a bad person, if you're a sinner or saved. And then it gets distributed to wherever it is to go, either to punishment or to heaven. And how high in heaven? According to your heart's desire or your soul. When it goes back to God, brethren, it goes back with your soul attached. But an animal goes into the ground and its mind and its soul is lost, is gone. So animals, no, we won't see animals in heaven. And people cry and complain about that, but understand something. I understand loving a pet. I understand that. Here's what I take comfort in, and that's this. I believe, I could be wrong. I don't think I am. I just believe this. God is such an awesome God, and his whole heart and nature is to create. I think that everything that has the spirit of life on this earth is a picture of what an intelligent life is in another creation. Because what's the difference between us and an animal? It's not the physical brain. There's animals with more complex brains than ours. It's not the brain. It is the mind that has been given to it. And we'll look at that on the next video. Lord bless you.